Me? I don't think so. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the August 9th Hainesport Township Committee meeting. And I just need to read this before every meeting. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of August 9th, 2022, with instructions for internet access, was included in a meeting notice sent to the Burlington County Times and Courier Post on January 6th, 2022, and advertised in said newspapers on January 9th, 2022, and January 12th, 2022. Respectfully posted on the website and the bulletin board in the municipal building on January 6th, 2022, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. So the first order of business is the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a roll call, please?
Mayor McLaughlin.
Here.
Mr. Klaus.
Here.
Mr. Levinson.
Here.
Mrs. Gilman. Here. Mr. Montgomery.
Here. We have the regular committee meeting minutes of July 12th, 2022, and the approval of the executive session minutes of July 12th, 2022.
I'd like to table the minutes from last meeting, please.
Okay, which minutes?
The regular meeting.
Of the regular meeting.
I also would like to table the executive session minutes.
Are we doing an explanation or just table until next meeting?
I assume that there is some question about the accuracy of the minutes.
Yeah, I'd like to discuss them.
It's the only reason I know to table the minutes, so
Is it possible to discuss them in closed for the executive session minutes?
only the closed session minutes.
Okay. So that's what I would prefer. Mr. Mayor.
So the closed session minutes can be discussed in closed session.
Correct.
How about the regular committee meeting minutes? Is
They can be tabled if there's an issue that the committee wants to discuss with the clerk about what they say, that's fine.
So that's what I'd like.
since it was an open meeting, would you like to discuss it now? Maybe there's some corrective action?
No, I'd rather just discuss it later, if that's okay.
Okay, I'm not going to force the issue, so we'll table those two minutes till the next meeting. So,
You do need a motion, so we're tabling them both to the next meeting, but having a discussion on the closed session minutes this evening in closed session. Is that the motion that someone's going to make?
I'd like to make that motion.
okay, let's,
So do I need to make the motion?
No, it's the same motion. Somebody just needs to second it.
Thank you.
Do we have a second?
We need a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Klaus.
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery.
Yes.
Mrs. Gilman. Yes. Mr. Levinson.
Yes, apologize for that, mic was off.
Mayor McLaughlin.
okay, yeah, I wouldn't ask the committee to vote for something they weren't comfortable with, so I'll say yes. All right, next we have the report section, tax collector for the June and first quarter in July 2022, code enforcement July 2022, fire official July 2022, construction July 2022, emergency services reports June and July 2022, and the New Jersey State Police in-person report.
I make a motion we approve.
I'll second.
Second?
Mrs. Gilman.
Yes.
Mr. Klaus.
Yes.
Mr. Levinson.
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin?
Yes. Sergeant, would you like to come up and speak with us?
Good evening, everyone. I have nothing new to report. The same incidents of vehicle thefts and break-ins and catalytic converters keep happening throughout the area and throughout the state. Just a continuing reminder to, lock your cars and keep valuables out of view.
Officer, when you're saying vehicle thefts, are you saying that cars are actually being stolen?
Yes.
Okay, so it's cars are being stolen and burglarized?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
So
I misunderstood, all right.
they're, crime, we have to minimize the opportunity.
Yeah.
Lock your doors for your cars and don't have any valuable objects visible inside. And then the distraction burglaries are in the area as well. Anybody soliciting door to door, just be wary of that, make sure they have ID. Usually in town, we have, we get they have to get a solicitor's permit, so when they want to come into Hainesport. And then troopers will be at Saturday's event, the late to night event, and that's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the sergeant while he's available? No? Okay, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Sergeant.
So we have comments from the public on agenda items only, please? Nothing? Anybody with comment? Agenda items only?
Sidewalks.
Yeah, that's on the agenda.
Well, sir, if I ask you this, is this about you have comments about the sidewalk ordinance?
It is.
Okay, if we could ask that those be held until we get there, because every time we create a legislative record, we want it all in the same place.
Sure.
Thanks very much.
Anybody with any comments online?
There is one resident online.
Okay, in the ordinance section, we have ordinance 2022-7, which appropriates funds from the general capital fund for various projects, to include some sidewalk repairs in the Claremont section. Paula, you had some actual addresses for us, hopefully?
I do.
We have on South Hunterton Avenue, number 1, 4, 6, 10, 14. However, number 10 has about 100 linear feet of newer sidewalk, and number 6 has a set of steps. So these issues do need to still be resolved, but these are earmarked as addresses for repair. North Cumberland Avenue, number 5, number 7, and then also on Cumberland Avenue, but it's addressed at 402 Washington Street. This is on the one side of the house. And then on South Cumberland Avenue, number 22, 24, and then also 418, but that's actually Cumberland Avenue on the right side, and 3 Cumberland.
And these were part of the survey that was done by
Our Public Works Department?
Yes, our Public Works Department, as well as a contractor who just went out yesterday, just to compare the information that I provided to them and make their own field notes. I still need to go out with our Public Works crew and look at it, because there's some odd situations out there that need to be looked at specifically. It's not just the entire stretch of the sidewalk that needs to be looked at, but it is from that original report from Public Works.
And to clarify, this is sidewalks that were damaged of some sort, number of years ago that are,
They're original, most of them are original sidewalks, and they are clearly down to the aggregate. There's a couple that are damaged from tree roots.
Right.
But mostly it's just long-term. They have been there since probably the house was built.
right. And it's most of the, it's two-thirds of the money that we're actually, looks like it's roughly more than two-thirds of the money we're putting
I
aside.
don't have an exact price from our contractor, but that's the
Okay,
amount.
that's the
that's
estimate.
marked.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, good, good job. I'm happy.
So the intent is to mitigate long-standing sidewalk issues that have gone on for a long time, that may be part of town planning from years ago, and just bring them up to a good standard. So I'd ask for a motion and a vote on this ordinance, please.
Can I just open it to the public? Is the motion open to the public?
You have to open it to the public comment.
Oh, you know what, you're right, this is final adoption. Yes, anybody want to comment on this ordinance, which is the funds being appropriated for the repair of existing sidewalk problems?
May I also add the additional items for this capital ordinance includes computer hardware, purchasing of fire equipment, as well as the Brownsfields cleanup, our share of that $500,000 EPA grant. $70,000 would be our share.
Absolutely. Does anybody want to comment on this? So now I'll open it for a motion. Okay.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mr. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Flowers?
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin?
Yes. So now we have 2022-6, which provides for the construction, repair, and the replacement of sidewalks and curbing, as well as unimproved areas by abutting property owners, and authorizing placement of liens and on non-compliant properties. If you would, John, can you just put your spin on that?
Sure, this is the ordinance that was introduced some point last year that would delegate responsibility to abutting property owners to maintain sidewalks and natural areas that abut their properties, to keep them from becoming unsafe or hazardous to the public, pedestrians who walk along those areas, whether they're sidewalks or natural areas in front of the property. Provides for notice to the property owner if the township finds that the sidewalk and/or the natural area is not being properly maintained and is becoming hazardous or dangerous to the traveling public. Gives the property owner time to undertake the necessary improvements. Requires that the sidewalks and curbing be constructed in accordance with any and all standards, including those under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And also provides that Hainesport may each year include in its annual budget an appropriation for curbing and/or sidewalk construction, repairs, and reconstruction, in addition to any existing maintenance fund, which is one of the things you did this evening just now. So that's pretty much the general proposition.
Okay, so I'm going to open public comment. We're not going to turn it into a question and answer session. We will answer all of your questions, if you have them, at the end of public comment. I would ask the committee to do the same. Let's get all the questions or comments in here, and then they'll be addressed. So anybody with a public comment, come on up. We're going to let you have your say, and then we'll answer whatever questions you may have or comments at the end of public comment. So, thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Harris, 7 Elsinore Drive. So I have a handful of comments. My first comment is in regards to, and hopefully you have this in front of you so you can follow along with my commentary, Article 1, Section B. 30 days is not enough time to find contractors, get estimates, get permits, get on a contractor schedule, and get the work completed. So I would recommend, as part of my comments, some way to extend that time. So my second comment is piggybacking off of that. My suggestion is to, and my comment here is either add initiate to the construction. That will align with the wording in Article 2, Section 3 for property owners that don't have sidewalks. As a potential other possibility, perhaps consider adding 1, shall apply for a zoning permit, which signals the intent to repair the sidewalk, or 2, sign up for the Hainsport Sidewalk Improvement Program, which I'm just assuming you're probably going to do because there's going to be appropriations and you spoke about it the last time. So that is my comment on that particular section. Article 2, Section 3. So, for Article 2, Section 3, that's the second line, there's a typo. There's a floating lowercase g there that you probably want to remove before this goes into its final draft. Also, immediately after that typo, there is, some lack of contextual conciseness wording. So the sentence here for Section C reads, in cases where a property owner fails to, and here's that word, initiate the work required under Article, and forget that little g there, required under this article, for the period of 30 days after service of the written notice. So it's a little kind of wonky. You kind of stumble over that sentence. So my suggestion is that it be reworded to say something like, for the period of 30 days, to really signal that in accordance with the New Jersey law, you're not requiring that the work start 30 days prior to that notice, but the clock starts 30 days after that notice period. So just some kind of clarification there. In Article 3, violations, I think this is a typo. So if you move a little bit further down the page, in Article 3 violations, the second to last line, therefore, I think it's missing an E. So I think you're using it as an adverb here to mean as a consequence or as a result or hence, and not as an adverb to mean for that or for it. So you probably want to stick that E in there. Article 3, violations. I'm just going to say my comment here is remove this section altogether. So the last time we were all gathered here to talk about this particular ordinance, the general penalties set forth in Section 1-1 of the Code of the Township of Hainsport caused quite a stir because those were actually listed here. What those penalties are a fine of up to $2,000, 90 days in jail, and community service. I don't think this section is even necessary. You already have the authority to place a lien. So you're exerting your HOA-like authority. If an owner does not, after notice, and after you go through the due process and after you issue an ordinance, if an owner does not respond to your request to repair the sidewalk for whatever damaging situation it is, this committee can by ordinance authorize that work be done through the funds that you put away. And then you can issue a lien on the property, a lien which will probably be collected in some way, shape, or form at some point. So the addition of violations is really an unnecessary harshness. I mean, it's really setting up additional penalties above and beyond a lien. That's not really necessary for your constituents or residents here. It's kind of like a sidewalk repair gulag. I'm going to go back to Article 1, Section E. I'm going to challenge bullet number 3. So the New Jersey revised statute that applies here that gives you the authority to exert HOA-like authority over sidewalks and curbs, that statute doesn't say anything about aprons. It's limited to sidewalks and curbs. So I'm going to challenge bullet number 3, and my commentary here is that this should be removed because I don't believe it's within your authority. And, you can throw out case law, precedent, or other statutory authority. I haven't found it. So I think to charge a permit for an apron within the construct of this ordinance is beyond this council's, this committee's authority. And that's the end of my commentary. Thank you.
Anybody else?
There is one resident online, but they're not.
Okay, we'll let them go in a minute. Yep.
Evening, Robert McLaughlin. My neighbors and I live on Woodford Lane. I have good feelings and bad feelings about this ordinance. One being our neighborhood probably has the oldest concrete in town. The average age is 47 years. You have 2 disabled veterans that live in that town, in that area. You have 22 kids, and you have 3 disabled people. If you look at the sidewalk, especially, Sue, what's your address? 1310. She's called to have her sidewalk looked at due to street trees. We have the sidewalk repairs been neglected. You have 2 ADA walkways that are cracked, that are unwalkable. I think within this ordinance, you're putting it on us now, not to mention, if you call your insurance company's not going to insure the sidewalk. I've called 3 of them today. I think that the ordinance needs to be re-reviewed and looked at for the people. And my comment is hold your ordinance off, call your insurance companies, and make it where it's fair for the people. I should not have to. Now, I'm a resident of Hainsport for many years, moved away, moved back. But as a homeowner, I just moved into that house. Many of us moved in this house less than 15 years. Towns, Hainsport Chase, all the newer houses, 25 years and newer, have had new concrete. They have a lifespan. We don't. In that, you should review that ordinance and make it to where if you are going to, appropriate monies by bond, grant, include that in the ordinance. I agree with the upkeep. Obviously, there's some areas of Hainsport, a lot of trees are coming onto the road and stuff like that. Either separate them or review it. I think it's what honestly you should do here. And that is my comment.
What is the address again?
You can go anywhere on Woodford Lane.
Woodford.
Yep, anywhere from 1310 all the way around the circle, and also adjoining streets. There's obviously some ADA crosswalks there that are damaged. And obviously we've called them in the past, and they've been neglected of getting anybody out there. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Jamie Kennedy, 6 South Hyman. I just want to say, it's not a question, I think it's was such a money grab for someone whose property like my own, that I don't own their sidewalk, for you to want to assess and charge me a permit to fix your property.
Okay.
That is a money grab, and it will be remembered come election time, and that's it.
All right. Anybody else? So I would ask John, you were taking notes on some of the comment,
Sure,
to issue a response.
sure. With regard to Ms. Harris's comment about paragraph Article 2C at the top, the second line begins with a small g, you can just strike that. It wouldn't render the ordinance valid. No one would be confused by it because there is no Article G. But the point is well taken. It's a typo, strike the G. In Article 3, violations, the word therefore is indeed spelled correctly. It is therefore. It is not therefore with an E as in a transitional word. Therefore, you're going to go to the ball field after the party. So therefore is spelled correctly. as to whether or not 30 days is enough time. You know, one of the things I think people lose sight of is this governing body and previous governing bodies and hopefully future governing bodies don't just willy-nilly impose their will upon people, right? I mean, you look at these things, if someone came to you and said, I've got a contract to fix this, but my contractor can't get out there until September 15th, no one's going to find anybody, no one's going to cite anybody, no one's going to spend the time necessary to go through the administrative hassle of bothering somebody who's got a contract to start even after the 30 days is up. The goal is to get it fixed, not to punish people, right? So I just think that it's a point well taken, but I think in terms of implementation, I've been doing this 40 years. I've never seen a town just say, well, I don't care if you have a contract that's going to start in 2 weeks, your 30 days is up, we're coming after you. Or more importantly, we're now going to appropriate the money, do the work ourselves, and then impose the lien on your property which someday we hope to collect. If you've got a contract and it's going to take more than 30 days to get it done, my money says the Township Committee and the administrator will allow that to happen and play out and get it done. The goal is to get these things fixed, not to go after people. As to the violations, it's the same language as pretty much every ordinance in the code book, right? There's a general violations provision. And I understand the position that you don't need to do it because you already have the ability to have the work done and impose a lien. But I come back to what I just said. Why should the Township Committee have to make that choice? Maybe that year's budget doesn't permit it to spend $30,000 to fix some sidewalks, and it's easier to simply say to the homeowner, you need to do this, let's work together, you need to do this. So those options are available to the governing body, they should be available to a governing body. The governing body shouldn't be required as its only option to spend public money and then impose a lien on property.
That'd be me, son. That's my son for everybody that doesn't know. You're welcome to come up.
So, doing a lot of research in that, there's several ways that towns can offer that. What about a split? Why put the full blunt of the money on the homeowner? Per several codes, and if you do read a lot of legal history, there is options where the town can put in an ordinance to split the cost of the repair.
I'm not going to answer,
I'll answer it. And, you know, my son lives on Woodford. I really haven't walked from one side of his house to the other, you know, so I don't know any of his neighbors. Were we able to take a look out there as to what's going on?
Yes, absolutely. I have a binder with every single municipal, residential roadway that has a sidewalk. And every single road and sidewalk is evaluated and assessed by house number.
Well, I appreciate that.
Measured, we have it in there. We have just been focusing on the scale, the most egregious, the worst sidewalks that the municipality has, and those are the ones in the Claremont section that were identified, and then the 3 off Painesville Mountain Roll Road that have been fixed already.
So my question isn't relative just to our neighborhood, as far as in the ordinance. And in the different towns, I've read several throughout New Jersey, and believe me, I've done a lot of research here because I was just curious. It's up to the township to where they can do a split. You can offer that. Where now you're putting on to the homeowner's responsibility, there are provisions where you are allowed to split the cost and the repairs. Can we not offer that?
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you.
So, Paul, again, I don't think anybody would expect members of the committee to walk every block and every street, but, we did have our Public Works Department do that for us. So, some of these sidewalks on Woodford and some of the other areas, other than what you mentioned, do we have plans to go over there and take care of those, and where would they necessarily fall in with this ordinance? Not only my son, but other streets.
Okay, so there needs to be a certain point of delineation in terms of a rating system. And we utilized a rating system that is being used all throughout the country by engineers, DOT, to determine the level of repair that is needed for sidewalks. We just did it with street scan with our roadways. And that is what's guiding you all to make your policy decisions in terms of allocating taxpayer funds to repair them. We agreed as a policy to address the most egregious sidewalks in the town. Now, understand, there are there are a lot of areas in Hainesport that do not have sidewalks.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of areas in Hainesport that do not have sidewalks. So the funding that you've allocated is all taxpayer funded funds.
Absolutely.
That are going to repair sidewalks in certain sections. Now, understand, the contractor that I have been working with just said to me yesterday, I can't believe you guys are doing this. We do work in tons of municipalities throughout the state, and we have never heard of a municipality going in and repairing people's sidewalks or sidewalks on residential roads. It is always the homeowner's responsibility. And I said, this is what the township wants to do, because we want to fix the land use approvals from the past and the egregiously old unrepaired sidewalks in the Claremont section.
Right, absolutely.
Before you move forward with this policy. It's not just a random decision-making. There were actual, criteria that was used to determine which sidewalks need to be repaired. I don't know where it begins and where it ends. That's a policy decision. We used slabs that are more than 1 feet difference in elevation, or vertical or horizontal cracking. I should have brought the book with me, but it's in my office. At any time, if anybody wants to come in and look at this to see what criteria was utilized and the work that our public works guys did, as well as the engineer for the grant that we applied for that we did not get, they're more than welcome to. But, again, it wasn't just a,
No, we just didn't arbitrarily.
It wasn't arbitrary.
The intent of the improvements were, again, to mitigate poor planning, which may not have been poor at the time, but specifically oak trees growing up in the middle of the Devil Strip, or it's called, and lifting sidewalks and create a dangerous condition. So I think that's what we tried to do. That wasn't necessarily I felt, and I was able to convince the committee that it wasn't really the homeowner's fault. Quite frankly, a lot of homeowners on Craig already fixed theirs. They already took the bull by the horns and did their own work, and took care of their sidewalk. They didn't come to us. But I would assure the public that if there's ongoing issues, or there's ever another issue, we'll take a look at it. I mean, we spend money every year for roads, for improvements, and if there's, something that the township and the committee feels that, we have a historical responsibility to correct, yeah, but I'm not going to recommend that we correct a sidewalk that a cement truck rode over to put a built-in pool in and it's cracked. I don't know anybody who would do that. So I'll, as long as I'm here, I'll make that promise that, So with that, I'm going to stop talking and let the committee talk.
Just before you go, I just want to thank Mr. McLaughlin mentioned that there are cases. I would tell you that the cases that are all published, where the issue of sidewalk liability and the municipality had an ordinance that delegated responsibility for the sidewalk. And keep in mind, sidewalk, we've talked about this before, the town's still liable for the sidewalk if it's a public sidewalk, right? I mean, you're not shifting liability, you're shifting responsibility to repair it, and it gives you a party to make that happen. But all those cases, whether it was City of Egg Harbor, whether it was Newark, whether it was Hoboken, whether it was the City of Clifton, all of those ordinances were complete delegations. They weren't a 50-50 split. And that's not to say you can't, but I'm not aware of any cases. So I would ask Mr. McLaughlin if he wouldn't mind shoot me an email with those cases, because I'm curious now about them. The cases I read where the municipal ordinance was similar to what you're doing here, didn't have language in there that said the town would be responsible for half and the property owner would be responsible for half. I'm not familiar with that, so, look, we're always learning, so I'd love to see them, but the bottom line is that the ordinance that you're contemplating is a valid delegation under the statute. And by the way, aprons, I would include the aprons. I have no problem defending, should someone challenge that clause, that aprons are also included.
Committee, Ken, would you like to say anything about the, you have a comment?
I'd like to make it, and doesn't.
Okay, Bruce, we'll get you next. Bruce can go ahead. Well, go ahead, Ken. Go ahead.
When I had first ran, I don't want to speak for Bruce, but we agreed, because it was part of what we spoke of, we just saw a lot of the sidewalks that were uprooted by trees, as Mayor McLaughlin has said, by planting oak trees, poor planting at the time, between the strip, between the sidewalk and the street, they were uprooting the sidewalks, and it just, so we felt that the township should look at that and take care of that. And we did do a study on the most egregious sidewalks, and as John had mentioned, did something that really towns don't do, and we took control of that. It was interesting. It has to start and end somewhere. Looked like it poured here. When I pulled up, it was soaking wet. Dry at my home, a mile and a half away. Rain had to stop within the town of Hainesport. A bit arbitrary, but my point is that it needs to stop and start somewhere, and there's not unlimited funds. We as residents are all paid to repair the sidewalk damage done by the trees or something else, and we can't all pay for all sidewalks. And as a taxpayer, where I don't have a sidewalk, I really might even have more of a problem by adding more to that list. So we just need to be reasonable, and I feel that we've really tried and put a lot of effort and time into being fair and looking at this. And the Public Works spent a lot of time out there looking at it. Paula had done a lot of work, and her staff had done a lot of work in reviewing this as the committee has discussed all this. So our intent, and I am going to speak for all of us, is never to get you, gotcha, to our residents. It's never what we want to do, ever. And if you feel that way, I'm very sorry. You don't know me personally, and I'm willing to bet that you don't know the other people on this committee. That's never our intent, ever. So it's difficult, because if I didn't get the rain here, I got to run my sprinkler now because I didn't get the rain there. I guess I have to do that. So somewhere along the line, it begins and starts to continue with that analogy. So I'm happy that we made the payments to help out those that were damaged previous and to correct the poor planning. We do have to take care of our properties individually, and we have to take care of the property that abuts our property, which it still adds value to our property. Even though we may not own it, it still adds value to our property, and we have the use of it, etc. I do understand some of the concern about that. I really do. And we've looked at it, we've researched it in other towns in the state and elsewhere. So we're doing the best we can with it. Bruce, I hope I didn't steal all your thunder.
No, I'll give him a chance. Yeah. So Bruce, yeah, we'd like to hear your comments, your concerns.
Sure. So there were concerns regarding penalties and things of that nature, and as Ken said, townships are not in a got-you type of mindset. I owned a number of properties in Mount Holly from year 2000 to 2020, and my experience working with the inspectors, working with the code enforcers, were hand in hand. Their objective was to make sure that the town looked nice and was safe. My objective was that my properties looked nice and were safe. What they would do is they would basically look at these properties they'd drive the town. They'd actually drive the town and look at each one of the properties, and if there were issues, they'd bring it to my attention. I wasn't somebody who wanted to just let these things happen. I was somebody who I was a responsible owner, and I would try and take care of these issues within the time frame that they determined. But if I couldn't, I would tell them. And when I told them, they would work with me. As long as I kept them up to date as to my progress, they never had a problem, and they saw what my character was. They saw that I was trying to do the right thing, and so again, they worked with me hand in hand. Now, if I didn't have those penalties, sort of in the back of my mind, and I could wait till there was a lien on my property, like I said, I own these properties from the year 2000 to 2020. That means that lien would have been on the books of the township for 20 years. And if there were other owners just like that, there would have been tens of thousands of dollars on the books of the township for many years. Some people, don't sell in 20 years. It might be 30, 40, 50 years. There has to be something to inspire the owner, something to motivate the owner to do the right thing. Some people will do the right thing because that's their character, and other people will do the right thing because there's a stick and there's a carrot. So with regard to the ordinances, we can't as a township just leave these things to liens that just sit out there for years and years. Our taxpayers, all of our taxpayers, can't afford that. If you have people who do the right thing, it's never an issue. But if you have the people that don't intend to do the right thing, there has to be a carrot and a stick. That's all.
I don't have sidewalks, I don't have curbs, but I will tell you, I spend a lot of time maintaining my road due to county trucks, snow plows that go too wide over, peel up my grass. I have to replace the stones on the side, I can't have dips in the side. So I've been doing that since I've lived here 35 years. And I can tell everybody out there they're already taking care of your property in the front. Everybody is. And I still have 2.5 years to my term, and as long as I'm on this term, if we have a sidewalk problem that we should take care of, I fully intend to solicit for us to take care of that. I mean, we're still going to continue to do that. But we just want people to maintain it because you're there every day. You see it every day. You can say, if a contractor wants to back a truck over your sidewalk, you can say, well, wait a minute, I have to pay for that. You can't do that. And you can take more responsibility for it because it's yours. It's the beginning of your property. So I think we're talking about what every responsible homeowner is doing right now. And if your neighbor isn't doing it, frankly, I think most of you would be upset they're not taking care of the front of their property. So other than the cost of repairing old damaged sidewalks, which we fully intend to keep a program in place for, I don't see an issue with this. It's really what everybody's presently doing with their sidewalks right now.
I grew up, it was the homeowner's responsibility to take care of the sidewalks, so I don't have anything to say.
And I understand, we have an audience, but we also have roughly 6,000 residents that we have to think about. Trying to keep taxes low, trying to keep the township, I've heard it called the gem of Burlington County, and trying to do all those things. But John, I wanted to ask you a question before I offer this for adoption. There's something that hasn't been really discussed, and that is liability on the part of the municipality for trees overhanging roads, which this ordinance addresses, cracked sidewalks, curbing. How does this ordinance affect, I don't have a preconceived notion, that's a question I'm asking you. How does it affect the municipal liability for especially trees hanging over roads?
It doesn't. I mean, we talked about this before. The municipality, if it's a public sidewalk, right? The the statute and the case law allow municipality to delegate responsibility to a private property owner to maintain, to take care of that public property. It's a delegation of duty responsibility, it's not a shift of liability, right? So the municipality, unless it's a county road, in which case it's the county's responsibility, not ours, right? But to the extent that it's a municipal public property, municipal roadway, municipal right-of-way, municipal sidewalk.
Yep.
You know, we don't delegate, we don't punt that liability issue. So if someone falls on a sidewalk, the way it's going to work is they're going to sue the property owner and they're going to sue the township, right? And at the end of the day, and I've litigated a lot of those cases, at the end of the day, the county, the public entity is going to, if it gets settled, pay the bulk of whatever the settlement is, but the homeowner's insurance is going to pay something. It doesn't drive up the premiums because it's not usually a lot of money. It's usually a nuisance because they'll pay their attorneys more to stay in the case for 2.5 to 3 years and go through a lot of depositions and, you know, property record cards and history of the property. Now, there are exceptions, of course. If, for example, the property owner created the condition of the sidewalk upheaving because its tree that it planted, those roots caused the upheaval of the sidewalk. Well, now that's a different story, right? Because they caused that to happen. Or if they have put in drains and that stormwater, as a result of what they've done, is redirected and undermines the sidewalk, and the sidewalk starts to collapse because of it, well, the property owner's not going to get off the hook on that because the property owner changed the condition of the property and the direction of the water flow. And they did that. They created that dangerous condition, right? So there are exceptions where the property owner is more liable than the municipality.
What about if a property owner 20 years ago planted a tree and it's hanging over one of our roads and falls?
That's going to be an interesting question. My gut says it's going to be more the property owner, but the other part of it is, did we know it was there? And this ordinance allows us to go to the property owner and say, you got to fix that. If you don't fix that, then we're going to leave your property. We don't currently have that authority. We don't have that in our ordinances today, right? But as to liability, you know, that's going to be a fact question. It's going to be a fact question about who planted the tree, who allowed it to grow that way. Was the township on notice? You know, one of the things that municipalities and counties have, public entities, is the Tort Claims Act, right? Just because a sidewalk ends up being dangerous doesn't make the public entity liable for it, even if it otherwise would be as a public sidewalk. You have to have notice, whether it's actual or constructive, of the condition. And in towns where there are, you know, miles of sidewalk or miles of public way that abut a property, and whether it's a big hole in the property and someone steps in a hole by mistake, if you aren't aware of it, because you're not charged with the responsibility of going out on a daily basis and inspecting sidewalks throughout the town, right? That's not your responsibility. In fact, if you didn't do this, if you didn't have this stuff, and you said, well, we're not going to make any property owner responsible, we're going to send our guys out to mow that strip between the sidewalk and the curb, you're going to have to hire more people. I mean, you don't have the manpower or the woman power to go out there and do that, right? So the Tort Claims Act provides a great set of immunities for public entities. But if you knew about it and there are complaints on file and the town did nothing about it, you're in the game, you're in the litigation.
Okay. So you had a comment. I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to let you come on up. Just keep it, just humor me and keep it kind of brief because we want to. Okay.
So just comments. Okay, so Freehold has a 50/50 cost share with 6 months to complete. That's in the ordinance. Ridgewood gives 45 days to complete with extensions for financial hardship.
I'm sorry, what was the second one?
Ridgewood. Lawrence Township gives property owners the opportunity to have sidewalks replaced as part of a municipal project and make payments over time, and they're billed at 100% of the repair cost. It's in the ordinances. If you go to the, the League of Municipalities, you can start doing a search there. Princeton has a 50% cost share payable over a 5 to 10-year period. Madison provides a 25% incentive when the work is part of a municipal project, with no charge for improvements made to remove barriers for the disabled or for the damage caused by municipal shade trees. Highland Park is the one that I referred to earlier that has an extension for if you've applied for a zoning permit or for participation in the Highland Park Sidewalk Improvement Program. Many of these ordinances also include some verbiage about their various sidewalk improvement programs. Now, it's usually general, but it's in there because you're probably going to change that up, depending on how much money you allocate, but there is, at least a mention of that. So you say that there is, a carrot in this ordinance, but a carrot would be a built-in repair program like the ones that I've mentioned. So there really is no carrot, it's all stick. And if you say you trust the residents, but in the same sentence you say, well, we need the option to, keep you residents in line by sending you to 90 days of jail, then that's not really being true to what you just said. So I would challenge that. You also, Mr. Gillespie, still did not give me a citation for your authority to levy a permit on the aprons. And in regards to liability, frankly, the first thing that I would do is send you a FOIA request, because you said you have an inventory of all the sidewalks with a rating system, so you're on notice.
Okay, we actually did better than what you said, because we've done it for free. So programs like that are certainly something that we need to look at. I can tell you, being a resident of Craig Drive, if I had went up to those residents and offered them 50% to fix their sidewalks and they pay the other 50, we would have had another place full like we did last time when the agitators had them all show up. So we did it for free, okay? Because again, we felt that it was a Hainesport issue from a long time ago. So, and we're also looking at other things for free. As far as 50% or whatever, yeah, we're going to look at it. I mean, it was just brought to my attention from my own son that his block has issues. Be honest with you, I didn't walk down one side to the other from his block. I don't live over there. I know what's going on in my neighborhood. I don't necessarily go around looking at sidewalks. I don't know if Jerry or Ken or Lee looked at it. So, there's plenty of things to do. We spend a lot of money in this town fixing things and doing things, so nobody's going to get carted off to jail because they're not able to, and they didn't fix their sidewalk. I don't know. I've been around 20-plus years. I don't know anybody who's ever been carted off to jail. Maybe a motor vehicle citation, which I think has some of the same teeth in it, doesn't it, John? Some of the motor vehicle stuff? I mean, I don't know anybody who's ever went to jail in this town for doing anything, as far as their property.
I think that's right. I think that's right. And to speculate that, well, you can, doesn't mean you're going to.
And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. Okay, hold on. Don't. You're better than that, making comments from the audience. You're better than that. Let's end it. Okay. But I don't. It's our turn now. We gave you 2 turns. So you want 3? How many turns do you want? Okay. So I don't know if anybody has ever been carted off to jail. And John, you mentioned to me that every ordinance has that in it. Is that pretty much true?
So about every, if you look at the ordinance, it references you to section 1-1 of the code, and not every ordinance in the books has an enforcement clause, but to the extent that ordinances in the code book have a provision where this ordinance shall be enforceable by the zoning officer, or the code enforcement officer, or the property maintenance officer, or by the administrator or the clerk, there's usually within that same thing those same sections, and it refers back to section 1-1, which is the penalty and violation section.
Okay. All right, we done, everybody, we're ready to make a motion to approve this ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second it.
Okay, vote please.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Goulart?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin?
Yes. Okay, so now, get back to our table of contents here. So we have some consent agenda resolutions, which means the committee has the prerogative to adopt them all at the same time, or if anybody wants to separate them, it's your call. So Resolution 2022-113-8 authorizes a change order for the FY 2019 and 2020 NJ DOT Trust Fund improvements on Bancroft Lane, where we repaved Bancroft Lane, at no cost to the residents. Resolution on that street paid for by taxpayer money, so it was paid for by all of us. Resolution 2022-114-8 releases retainage and final payment certificate number 3 for FY 2019 and 2020 NJT Trust Fund improvements for Bancroft Lane. So we approved the change order and we released the payment. And then 2022-115-8 authorizes the release of a performance guarantee and acceptance of a maintenance bond for our WAC paving for the improvements on Bancroft Lane. So what's the committee's pleasure on those?
I'll make that motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin?
Yes. So we have two normal resolutions, 2022-116-8 authorizes a service agreement with the Hainesport Volunteer Fire Company. Hainesport Township sends monies over to the fire department every year, and this ordinance, this resolution enacts that. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, Bruce, okay, here we have a motion. Okay, I'll second. Okay, one motion and a second.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin?
Yes. Resolution 2022-117-8 authorizes a shared service agreement with the Township of Pemberton for administrative employee services. So we're going to team up with Pemberton for some office functions here at Hainesport. Anybody have any questions, any explanations?
I'll make a motion that we accept the resolution.
Second?
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin?
Yes. Okay, we have a business license to approve tonight.
What is lumping?
Let me grab it. Who is it?
They're on the back page, right? Yeah, they're on the back page.
Yeah. So the committee can see who, and of course, all their taxes are paid and their fees are correct and all that good stuff.
I'll make a motion. I second that.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Yes. So, I have something in my comments, but now we have comments from the public on anything you'd like to speak about. Yes, ma'am.
Anna Evans, 63 Parry Drive. Got a couple of comments and then a point that I was actually always going to make. Firstly, I was entertained to hear you say, Mayor McLaughlin, that you haven't walked all the streets of Hainesport. I have, strangely, when I've been campaigning over the last 6 years. So I've seen pretty much all the sidewalks and lack of sidewalks thereof. And my issue with what you've done today is that, again, I've said this last month, you've come up with a one-size-fits-all solution when you don't have a one-size-fits-all town. This town has got very many different distinct areas with very different sidewalk arrangements. I know you're saying it's got to stop somewhere, but you've ended up by fixing a certain number of these sidewalks when the other sidewalks have got a whole range of situations from really, really good to moderately poor, as you heard from the Woodford Lane gentleman. So I think that's a bit of a problem. I'd also like to point out that the mayor of Hainesport back then did try to put me in prison in 2016. I think we all remember that, right? So, you know, prison isn't something that's that far off the possibility. And then finally, my actual point that I was going to make. I did see today that the state of New Jersey has announced a drought watch because of the incredibly long, hot, dry conditions that we've been experiencing. And I just wanted to ask the committee what you're going to do to conserve water and to recommend to residents that they conserve water as has been set out by the state of New Jersey. Thanks.
Anybody else? Last call. Anybody online?
No.
Okay, so we have comments from our administrator.
Thank you. I just got that notice as well, and I think we pushed it out on our mobile app today, in fact, about the drought watch. So fortunately, we're just in a drought watch at this point, but we do need to absolutely prepare on conserving water, and we will push out all of that information that comes down and is available on the website on the state's website as they change the level of drought communication or drought warning. So that's what we will do absolutely on our part in administration. I really don't have a lot to report, but I just want to respond to Ms. Harris with the FOIA comment. We have Oprah in New Jersey, and that is what we as municipal clerks have to follow. So at any time you want to request any kind of documents, you can do that through the Open Public Records Act. And again, I would not present anything as being in my office if it was not. So I welcome at any time that you want to come in and see if I have backup to what I offer to the residents. You are always more than welcome to do so. Thank you.
We'll open committee comment with Mrs. Gilmore. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting you, John. Comments from the solicitor?
I'm all good, thanks.
Okay. Lula?
Okay, so I just wanted to say that the concerts in the park were fabulous, if not warm. The last one will be on this Sunday, and it'll be Charlie Zan and Tad, and the Ladies Auxiliary will be selling refreshments at the time. There's a new event on August the 10th. It's a first of 4 workout Wednesdays at 6:30. They're free classes given by Edge Dance and Tenacity Fitness at the Pavilion, and they're open to all. The senior citizens have a meeting on the 11th and the 25th this month, at noon time at the community center. This Saturday is Light the Night Tennis Explosion, and the first movie starts August the 26th. It's the Jungle Cruise. And September 16th is the senior prom. And I advise everybody to please download the app and check the app often, as everything, all the events are on there, except for one. Happy birthday, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Bruce, would you like to make a comment?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Ken?
Happy birthday. How about that? Did not know.
He's almost...
Just a couple things. I've said enough on the other ad infinitum. I know that, have we received yet, Paul, we spoke with this the other day, but have we received the county tax yet?
Yes.
We have?
Yes.
Okay. So do we know when we will be sending out our,
Yes.
roughly?
Roughly,
Typically, you have to wait for everyone to give us the numbers before we can send out.
the county's the last.
The county's
We have
last,
the
yes.
number, I believe they're going out August 22nd.
and they have to be out by August 22nd.
Okay.
With the extension that's offered as well.
And the extension will be to
September, I don't have the date.
16th.
16th, thank you.
September 1/6?
Yes, sir.
1/6.
Friday, the 16th.
Okay. So I'm just saying that basically so that everyone can hear that. And Leo and I went to a municipality flood meeting at the Township of Lumberton. There were a number of towns that were there. If you remember a few years ago, there was, I guess it was the 100-year flood, I guess they called it, where a lot of the dams broke, a lot of them in Medford and came down, and unfortunately Lumberton got the brunt end of that. Pretty scary if you were living here back then. Anyway, we're just involved in that, and just to try to keep on top of that, we're at a different level. When I say level, I mean ground level, elevation than Lumberton, et cetera, but still just, Leo and I went there, and we had our, what is the acronym for the person that was there? The CEM, is it?
The emergency.
Emergency response, CRM? Yeah.
Emergency management coordinator?
Yes, right. Also, I noticed in one of the reports that there is a, and I'm addressing this to our troop back there, that there's graffiti going on continually at 1477 Route 38. It just on this home there. And the person was advised to, I think it's an abandoned home.
No, it's the old Exxon station.
Oh, is that what it is?
Where they're doing all that repair right
Okay.
now.
And they're doing the repair right now, okay. So they were, I didn't realize that's what it was. So they were advised just to contact the state police about that, because that keeps getting cleaned up, it keeps going on. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention, officer, just to try to help that along. And, I think that's it for me.
Jerry? It's hot. I'm either getting older or it's getting hotter. I don't know. I guess it's both. But everybody should stay hydrated. I don't really have a lot to say. It's just get through this heat wave and move on. So thank you all for coming. I'm going to respond to Anna's comment, and she knows better than to mention that. I don't have a ruler. I didn't walk around the town with our predetermined statistics on what constituted a lifted sidewalk. I have walked the town. I think I ran for election 6 years. I think I went to just about every home in the town, so, you know better, but to make a comment, to draw attention to yourself on something like that, I think is inappropriate. I'm going to make a comment about the fire that we had at the Perscavage's home. As you know, some of you know that come here, fortunately, we had a resident that a lot of us consider saved the life of Mrs. Perscavage, and we gave her tried to show some appreciation for what she did and notoriety. Something else happened very unusual here. There seemed to be a threading of the fitting. There's two kinds of, I think there's a variety of kind of threads. The vernacular for what we seem to use is a Mount Holly thread.
The hydrants, right?
The hydrants, yeah. So it wasn't that the fire department had the wrong connection, from what I hear, that I wasn't there. It was misthreaded, and finally another fireman came over and banged it on the hydrant with a hammer, and water was able to be delivered. But in the meantime, a lot of things have come to light with our fire protection, and Paula and George, our fire official, and our fire department are working hard to correct some things and procedures. As most of you know, we have a consultant working with our fire department and emergency services. But something very interesting has happened. There's 22 fire hydrants in Hainesport Chase. Now, I know some of the people in Sage Run may wind up having a comment, but I'm happy to comment that right now, George, I guess Paula,
All George.
who else?
All George.
Pardon me?
It was George.
Our fire official has gotten New Jersey Water, right?
American Water.
American Water, to go around and start replacing the threads on the fire hydrants at their cost, which is unprecedented. I'm sure it's going to continue, but again, you have to start somewhere. And again, we're not taking any, but we just wanted you to know, we wanted the Perscavages to know that we're not letting off, that issue. I don't know if Anna goes around and looks at the threads on the fire department, but I walk around and I don't look at them, so you got me on that one, But that's what's going on there. So I'm real happy to report that we're making a lot of progress in that. And again, I want to assure the public for the committee, I'm only one vote, but, we're not going to let situations, we're very fortunate here that we have a healthy budget, we are very healthy financially. Because of the way the committee has managed the affairs of the township, we've heard me brag that we're debt-free at the end of the year. We're going to continue, and I had little to do with it, it's the way our administrations run the business, and we're going to go around and we're going to look at any and all situations and either partner or correct things as we go, because we're all here to try to maintain a certain lifestyle that brought you and me and my family to Hainesport. We want to continue to work on the town. So, with that, I'll end my comment. We need an approval to pay the bills. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin?
Yes. We need to adopt Resolution 2022-118-8. This is a resolution to enter into executive session for personnel matters and potential litigation. So moved.
So move.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin?
Yes. John, do you expect any formal action after the executive session?
With the minutes?
Potentially the closed session
I'm
now.
just asking. Right, potentially adoption of the closed session minutes.
Okay. And how long do you think
15
we're
minutes?
going to be? Pardon me?
15 minutes.
So, are we going to do it in here? Or are we going to go in another room?
We'll probably go in the other room.
So you don't have to leave. We're going to go in the back room. We should only be about 15 minutes. You're free to wait or whatever you want to do. So I'll have a few-minute recess.
I was going to say, because I need the reference.
What about the reference?